This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm just a regular Democrat. I'm not leaving my party, but I'm not sure why some of the things that I've chosen to do, like meeting with nominees and having views that might be more aligned with some of the Republican side, I think that's part of politics. Like, I've been warning people, like, you got to chill out. You know, like the constant, freak out. It's not helpful. So, pack a lunch. Pace yourself, because he hasn't even taken office yet, because I'm not rooting against him. If you're rooting against the president, you are rooting against the nation.
Wow. I can't believe this dude is really starting to grow on me.
Man, if you had asked me about this dude during the campaign in 2022, I would have told you, get up, give me a break, get this guy out of here.
I mean,
now he is the
sane.
The sane. Perhaps he's going to be the new Joe Manchin.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Talk some sense into these people.
Yes.
Man.
And to think that even throughout the campaign, he was taking this angle. But these never Trumpers who I'm not going to lie, Charles. I wanted to gloat so bad on social media, but I took the more gentlemanly statesman approach about Trump winning the election when I made the post about Trump winning. But these never Trumpers, people like Brett Stevens, he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times basically saying, did we give up?
Hey,
being never Trumpers?
Hey, before we go on, hats off to the people who fixed John Fetterman in terms of his ability to speak and communicate. He did not have it during the campaign, but he's got it now.
Yeah, and I think his therapists and his medicines are they're
hats
working.
Off.
Yeah.
Hey, he's made a believer out of me that you can come back.
Yeah. Speaking of hats out, hats out to Debbie for breakfast this morning. Charles, Hofdaddy, and Quinn, I think we can get through the rest of the day now that we've had breakfast. Shout out to you, Debbie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
She's always so thoughtful and caring. But to joining us to discuss the Never Trumpers, the Fettermans of the world, is Fred Bauer. He's a writer from New England. As I stated during the break, you can find his work at Unheard, City Journal, National Review, and his blog, A Certain Enthusiasm, fredbauerblog.blogspot.com. Fred, welcome to Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thanks for having me on.
Good morning, Fred.
Now, Fred, as throughout this campaign, even before Trump started acknowledged that he was going to run again, this has been kind of the tack that the cinema, Fetterman, Manchin, when you look at, these are Democrats, and some of the things that they've had to say about Donald Trump. And then when you go on the flip side and you see some of the things that these never Trumpers who you want to get my blood to boiling, to start talking about never Trumpers. What say you? Why? I mean, what is people who are listening to make of this when Fetterman is saying, I'm not going to root against Trump, but the never Trumpers have rooted against him since he came down the escalator?
Well, I think one of the things that we've seen, over the past, month or so, is that the 2024 election was really like this reckoning for this politics of emergency, this constant, incessant drumbeat that democracy was over if Trump wins, that, he's an existential threat to the Constitution, that, America won't be the same if, Trump becomes president. Well, Trump has won the election. And so now that constant drumbeat of emergency didn't really stop Donald Trump, and actually arguably it helped him because it caused many of his Democratic opponents to go in really extreme directions, something that people like Sindeman and Manchin were sort of like pushing back against, and they didn't actually really succeed in that because the party just kept swinging far to the left. But that then set up Trump's own major victory. And so I think right now some of Trump's political opponents, like Brett Stevens, are trying to take stock and say, I don't know, why didn't this work? Because there was unified media opposition. We have, Kamala Harris had this massive spending advantage, and yet Trump had the strongest Republican win in, 20 years. So why didn't this work, and what can we do to recalibrate in response to that?
You know, this is Charles Thomas, the co-host today, and I get the sense just listening to Fetterman speak, and even to a lesser extent, Bill Maher. It's almost a reemergence of American nationalism, and I don't use the word nationalism in a negative way. It's just that it's our country, and we have to make it work. And if that's nationalistic, then call me a nationalist. But that's what I see him appealing to.
Yeah, I mean, because look, I mean, as you say, at the end of the day, yes, we have disagreements, but we are all in the same boat, and we're all ultimately Americans. And we have to find some way to make this work. And just saying that, the other side, whatever that's the other side, Republicans and Democrats, is like the end of the world, and that you can't support them, and they're basically quasi-traitors and insurrectionists and that sort of thing. That's just fundamentally toxic politics. And we've tried that for a while, and I don't think it's really working for our country.
Yeah. Shifting topics a little. You tweeted out on December 19th, if you want more normies in politics and not trust funders and or ideologues, the pay needs to change. I want to play audio clip from Dan Crenshaw. I think he was the wrong person. He's the wrong person to be the face of this, because sometimes he can be so smug in his response to people who are asking him questions. I want to play this audio clip from him and get your response.
You know how much money I've ever had in the stock market? About $20,000. And yet I've been dragged through the mud on this as if there's some insider trading. Why not? Don't let us trade stock. How about we'll just keep whipping ourselves. How about we don't make any money either? How about just cut our paychecks? We haven't gotten a pay raise since 2008. Yeah, this is a great idea. Let's make Congress a place where only the millionaires can actually afford to do the job. This is a wonderful idea. Because what do the people want? Well, they want an easy button. All my problems will be solved if there's no stock trading. All my problems will be solved if there's term limits. Yeah, but if
he'd have stopped, I think it was the last portion of that because I'm not gonna listen. I know I may get a little hate on this. I agree with him. I agree that the reason why we see what we see in Congress, we don't see a lot of normal people, is because the rich, the lawyers have the money to run for Congress, and when you look at the expenses of I got friends who are in Congress. It's expensive to be in D.C. Fred, right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is. It's there's this thing where being in Congress, whether people like what Congress is doing or not, Congress is a very important job.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful job. And to be a member of Congress is very expensive because you have to have 2 residences.
Yep.
Either that or you end up sleeping in your office, which, again, if you're some guy who's a relatively successful businessman, do you really want to say, okay, I have to uproot my whole life, I have to sleep in my office because I'm taking a giant pay cut to take this job? They probably won't say that.
Right. That's true.
So you'll either have people who are super wealthy or people who, have these, are just so fanatical in their ideology that they'll never compromise about anything and just see only one way. And that's maybe not the best worldview either in terms of, there's a place for some of that, but you don't just want that in Congress. You want to have a more diverse set of perspectives and approaches.
That's true.
Do you think more Fettermans are going to emerge after January 20th?
I think it's hard to say because I think right now Democrats are still trying to calculate what's the best approach. I think Fetterman, especially because he's in a swing state and he'll be up in 2028, is thinking, okay, I can't go full resistance. I think some other Democrats might calculate it's in their advantage to do that. I think part of it's going to be depend on what Trump and Republicans do heading in. I think if they lead with something like, just speculating, or if they lead with something that might lead to unpopular cuts to entitlement programs like Social Security or Medicare, Democrats might just, use a very familiar playbook with them that they've used before and say, look, you're just trying to attack our seniors, and we'll be able to sort of leverage against that. If Republicans are a little more creative and start taking some of these things, whether it's on trade or industrial policy or, some kind of pro-labor things, Democrats will have a harder time, and some might have to come out more in the Fetterman direction and say, okay, how can we work with this new administration and see what it can get done? But it's probably going to depend on what issues Trump and Republicans lead with.
Yeah, that's true. Now, America celebrates 250 years in a little over 18 months from now.
Yeah.
What does that look like, and what role will Donald Trump play in that?
Well, this is something I recently wrote on for City Journal, and this is something I've been putting some thought into. I've proposed almost this what I call this 2026 project. Let's use the 250th anniversary of this country as a chance to create a more forward-looking, not backward-looking like some of these projects do, but a forward-looking way to sort of affirm what the best of America and the fact that we are a really broad and diverse country. And Trump himself, I think last year, was saying we want to have this big festival of this giant Iowa State Fair, and we want to have the statuary garden. And I'm like, oh, that all sounds interesting. Let's go even further with that, right? Let's think about how we can use federal cultural institutions like the National Endowment for the Arts or National Endowment for the Humanities to reflect upon and celebrate our American heritage, whether it's through, helping guide high school teachers through some of our founding documents so that they can then teach those to America's school children, because that's something of such a huge importance. Whether it's to encourage more public art, not just in a few places like Washington, D.C., but more broadly throughout the country. So you can go to a local library and almost just like the of old, see the mural, construction of public buildings and some art that stuff in the country. And
kind of losing him. Yeah, I think did we lose him?
We lost him?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. You back?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we lost you for a bit there.
Oh, okay. Well, so just to have more public art to celebrate our country, like the WPA of old, these murals and various libraries and close by, so that you can celebrate this great nation and the diverse people who are inside of it.
Do you think he stays away from allowing the military to march down the middle of the road? I don't
know. I'll have to see how that turns out. I know he loves those military parades. We'll have to see.
Well, because they believe he's a fascist, and he loves to do what the dictators have done, and as it relates to, I mean, think about that. A love for your military, and especially the United States military, and that's tied to fascism and communism. To see men and women marching down, which we used to do a lot back in, during the war and stuff, things of that nature. But we've gotten away from it. You think he does it?
I don't know. I know last time they subtracted them from that. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what some of the people around here are thinking about that. But I think you're totally right that marching, having some military parade is not itself inherently fascistic. I mean, that would surprise the American founders who had no problem with these military displays and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's become part of the progressive left's attack on the institutions of America and things that made us great. And that's not about Donald Trump making America great again, but what was part of our identity and what other countries envied around the world because of I still believe America is the greatest idea ever created. And one of the reasons why I was taught a long time ago by one of my mentors, one of the hardest things to destroy is an idea. If you and I think that's what led to a lot of American prosperity and American greatness, because America is an idea that came to fruition and did a lot of great. Did we mess up? Do we have faults? Yes, we do. But who we are as a nation, we are truly an exceptional country. And I wish more Americans really understood just how exceptional we are. And I think Brittany Griner's of the world, I think when them going to jail in Russia, she's come back. She's singing a different tune at this point as it relates to who we are as Americans. What do you say?
Yeah, no, man, I think this really is a great nation. And I think one of the things that's worked into our public culture is this attempt to impose this really very narrow ideological sense of what America can be. Basically, you guys should delegitimize most of American history, like, oh, it's just a series of flaws and just a series of mistakes. But it isn't. It's a story of great triumph and of great hope. And it's this wonderful kind of
Yep.
Well, we got a little problem
here,
here, man. But I agree with what he says. I mean, that 250th anniversary celebration should be about how great America has been and will become.
Well, I hate that we couldn't finish that conversation with Fred Bauer. But Fred, thank you so much for joining us. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
You know, balance of nature is becoming pretty important out there to a lot of people. And when I first started, I was really impressed. I'm a healthcare professional, trained as a pharmacist. So anything that's natural, I like.